Hey everybody, it's Rob Chevez, and it's Sunday afternoon. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. I've got my faithful dog Prim to my right, and I thought I'd record a little video. I'm a little reflective right now because I head to Austin, Texas tomorrow, and on Tuesday I'm going to have the privilege of speaking to my CEO, Gary Keller, of Keller Williams Realty, in front of about 10,000 people. So to say that I'm, excited, nervous, all the above is an understatement. I'm looking forward to it. And I was reflecting a little bit about how this journey started, and I wanted to tell you a little bit about that story. I believe that stories are powerful, and I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about the journey to date. And if you go way back, right, I was a Division I college wrestler for American University. I was team captain. I was high school wrestling captain. And I had this thing where I always just had this burning desire to win, right? Like I wanted to win. Not a all win at all cost kind of guy, like a win because I worked my ass off kind of guy, right? Because I was going to make it happen no matter what. I was going to will it no matter what. And, right out of college, I got the opportunity to meet a multimillionaire who, actually I met him in college. He hired me as an intern in college, who gave me the ability to work at his company. And, when I was in college, he asked me what I wanted to do. And I said, I want to own my own company. And he said, okay, what do you want to do now? And I was like, I don't know. He said, well, come work with me and you're going to learn how to sell. Well, selling wasn't really in my vocabulary, right? I'd never sold anything before. My parents were in the government, and really, we didn't talk about negotiations. We didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about sales at all in my household. But I was inspired by this guy who, was like my height, and yet he towered over everybody in every room that he came into. It was it's amazing. And I just watched and I learned, and I was in awe of what this guy had built. And it was really my first introduction of being surrounded by a business owner, an entrepreneur, someone that was just hustling and grinding and just making things happen. And it was an amazing environment to be in. But about a year after working, a year after college, and after, kind of being part of this gentleman's organization, I realized I didn't want to be in that industry. It was in the insurance industry. And while I now look back and say, wow, that is an amazing industry. At 24, I was like, I don't want to be in life insurance, health insurance. It didn't feel like my right path. And my friend had just started a recruiting business as an executive sales recruiter, placing technical salespeople. And he said, hey, I think I can make a living doing this. I think we can make a living doing this. And he kind of proved to me the model. We placed a couple people, or he placed a couple people, and showed me that we could make $5,000 per placement. And at the time, at 24, that seemed like a ton of money. And so I started that business with him at 24. And helped him build out all the back-end infrastructure, and soon learned that the only way for me to get paid in this business was if I actually sold something. So I proceeded to kind of get out of my comfort zone and get on the phone and start making cold calls. And honestly, the first 6 months was brutal. I sucked at it. I was really bad. And I remember there was times when I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. But, when you're surrounded by other people that are doing it, it kind of pulls you up. And so I saw my friend succeeding at this, and I was like, well, if he could do it, I can do it. I just got to figure out my way of doing it. And I happened to go through this sales training course that kind of showed me how this was really a numbers game, right? And gave me the formula to be successful by following simple numbers. And so I said, well, I can do that. That seems easy enough. And so I proceeded to build my desk, which is what you call as a recruiter, following that number plan. And by the end of next year, I'd blown away, my previous year by 300,000 in production, and I'd actually beat my friend who's way more talented than I am in production. And we built that company for the next 7 years. We rode the dot-com boom. We rode the dot-com bust down. We had grown to around 17, 18 people, down to 3 partners, back to, 4 or 5 people by the summer of 2005. And by that time, I was burnt out, right? I was just spent from that business. And really what had happened was I had fallen in love with real estate. And I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 1999, the year 2000. And I'm lucky that I had been blessed when I was in college. I took a class, a personal finance class, where the teacher said, hey, if you plan on being anywhere for longer than a couple of years, you should consider buying a home. And I really took that to heart. I bought a townhouse shortly after I graduated from college, and I put a couple roommates in, and they helped pay my mortgage. And I was like, hey, this is pretty awesome, right? And powerful. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad around that same time, and it started the wheels turning. I was like, I need to build passive income in my life. And in the recruiting business, running a perm desk, you just don't have it, right? You're fee for service. Every 30 days, fee for service. Every 30 days, you're at zero. Very much like being a realtor, right? And so as I was building this recruiting business with my friend, I was buying investment properties because I realized that I really wanted to be on the other side of the quadrant. I wanted to be on the B and the I side of the quadrant, not on the employee or self-employed side. I really wanted to build a business income and passive income through investments. And so I didn't know what I was doing. I was attending local real estate investment groups. I was reading. I was getting inspiration online, but I was acting. I was just doing. And and the numbers were working at the time, right? This was 99, 2000, 2001, 2003, 2004, 2005. So the market was just riding up as I was buying these assets. By 2005, I realized we were more than likely to go through some kind of recession in real estate. Not because I understood how to read the tea leaves. I didn't understand all the economics behind it. I just knew that it felt very similar to the dot-com bust. And I had lived through that in 2000, 2001. 2002 was brutal in our business in recruiting. And I'd survived that. I'd lived through that. And I knew what that felt like. And I knew what irrational exuberance looked like. And it felt the same way in 2005. So I turned to my wife and I said, hey, let's sell these properties that we've purchased, which, by the way, was a mistake. At the time, it seemed like I was a genius, but I look back now and wish I hadn't sold those properties. But by the summer of 2005, I had sold 6 or 7 properties. I had accumulated this nice little nest egg, and it gave me the opportunity to really turn to my partner and say, hey, I love you, but buy me out. I'm not in love with this business anymore. I'm not in love with the recruiting business. I want to do real estate full time. And I want to buy, fix, and flip homes. I want to be an investor. I want to own apartments. I didn't have a plan. I just had a dream, right? But I knew it wasn't in recruiting, and I knew it was in real estate. So we worked out an arrangement, and he bought me out of the business, and, it wasn't very much money. It was hard for us to value a perm recruiting business, but we did the best that we could, and he owned the majority of the business. He owned 80%, I owned 20%, and so I was off to pursue my own dreams, right? No plan, nothing. I remember when I came in one day and I told my wife I wanted to do this, she said, okay, let's do it. And I was like, right? I swallowed deeply because I thought she was going to try to talk me out of it. She's like, I believe in you. Whatever you've set your mind to, you're just going to do. So this was 2005. My little girl was born in 2002, so she was just 3 years old, right? I was leaving a 6-figure income business, net income business. I had a little girl, and my wife didn't work. And I didn't have a plan, but I had a dream. And so I looked around and said, where can I make the numbers work? I couldn't make the numbers work here locally in the DMV. They just didn't work. Everything was inflated. So I started looking at other parts around the country, and I found a little town a couple hours away from where I lived where you could buy a real estate asset for $20,000, $50,000, fix it up, put a $10,000, $15,000 into it, and I'd make a $15,000 profit. And I really cut my teeth in this little town. It's called Cumberland, Maryland. I was buying roughly 25 homes a year with my wife, and we were doing okay. I felt like we were taking a lot of risk. I didn't understand my numbers. I felt like I was robbing Peter to pay Paul. I think maybe that first year we made $65,000 or $70,000 in profit out of that business, but my household expenses were like $120,000, so it was a net loss to the household. Year two, I think I made $110,000 net in that business, and yet again my household expenses were like $120,000, and so it was still a net loss to the household. And that was 2007, right? And I felt like I was taking a lot of risk. The market was looking pretty bad. It was starting to get really bad. And I was at Barnes & Noble when there were still bookstores around. And I was just, I'm a big reader, and I happened to pick up this book. It was called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. I opened up the first chapter, started reading, and I was like, agents can net $1 million a year running a real estate team? Nobody had ever told me that before. And when I read the book, it hit me literally like a ton of bricks that this wasn't a book about real estate. This was a book about business. I had actually built a recruiting business before, and I realized that you could take the word real estate agent out and plug in recruiter, plug in any small business, and the concepts were the same. The model was the same. And I was like, I don't know who this Gary Keller guy is, but I'm going to look him up. I'm going to look up the nearest Keller Williams office, and I'm going to get my license, and I'm going to join, which is what I did. And that year, 2007, I attended my first family reunion. Family reunion. It was in Las Vegas, and I remember seeing everybody on stage and just listening to the possibility of what you could do in this business. There was all these real estate entrepreneurs that were doing amazing things. Come on, baby. Looks like my dog wants to get out of her chair. There you go. Okay. And there was all these agents doing these amazing things. And so I returned home and I said, babe, I think we're going to change our model. Instead of buying 20 homes a year, why don't we sell 20 homes a year and just buy one or two assets a year that we're going to keep in our portfolio? Because I'm an investor at heart. I'm a business guy. I just saw the opportunity of building a real estate team by taking less risk than I was as an investor. It seemed like a bigger market to me because I wasn't looking for a needle in a haystack. Like you are when you're an investor. Everybody was an opportunity. And so we changed our model, right? Instead of, buying 20 homes a year and fixing and flipping those homes, which is just all earning income anyways, right? I really wanted to be on the other side of the quadrant of passive income. We changed the model and we said, okay, we'll sell 20 and we'll buy one to two a year. Now, 2008 happened, and you guys remember what 2008 was like. It was crazy. I mean, every house was a foreclosure and a short sale. And REO agents were making a ton of money, and short sale agents were making a ton of money. And I still had very much of an investor mindset. I was still actively buying, right? Everything looked on sale to me, quite honestly. Warren Buffett came on CNBC and said, hey, when everybody's fearful, be greedy. When everybody's greedy, be fearful. And I took that to heart. I just happened to mention to a friend of mine that was a pretty wealthy guy, hey, these assets that, in our backyard that were worth $300,000 at the peak, $320 at the peak, are now selling for $150. these are kind of interesting, and the rents are around $1,500 a month. I think that there's opportunity here. And he said, well, if you find the properties and you help fix them up, you GC them, and you put tenants into them, I'll fund you, I'll fund us, and we'll split all the proceeds 50-50. Deal, let's do it. And we were off to the races. And by this time, by the way, I'd started building my investment network, the Grid Investor Network. And I did it because Gary was saying, hey, your database is your business. You have to build a database. And I had a database of a lot of people from my days being a recruiter, but I also knew that I wanted to build a database of people that were like me, that thought like me, that wanted to build wealth through real estate. And I couldn't think of a better way than hosting investment classes, catering to that specific, what I call psychographic market, right? People that are thinking a certain way, attracted to a certain thing, believe a certain thing. And I knew that there was a big opportunity because a lot of the other investment groups that were out there were always selling something in the back of the room. It was always just a pitch fest. They would always give you just enough information to be dangerous. And then for $2,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, you could take their course. And I believe in education. I'm all about education. But it just seemed ridiculous that, one, I just felt that they were charging too much for the information. And two, I felt that really what they should be doing is educating in order to do more deals with other investors, because this is a kind of business that there's a lot of what I call co-opetition among real estate people, real estate investors, right? Agents need rehabbers, rehabbers need the money, rehabbers need bird dogs, rehabbers need wholesalers, wholesalers need rehabbers, hard money lenders need the rehab. It's literally this ecosystem that occurs. So I set up a curriculum that I felt was really a building block to help somebody understand the full life cycle of a real estate investor, starting with some foundational things that you needed to know regarding wholesaling, right? And that little group started with 5 people, and then it grew to 10, and then 20, and then 100. Before we knew it, we were at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and I held it the same Tuesday of the first Tuesday of every month. And all I did was kind of just educate based on all the stuff that I had learned. Because if you remember, I was a part-time investor from 1999 to 2005, and then full-time in the weeds, making a living, trying to figure it out, making mistakes, not having a plan for the next 2.5 years, 3 years, right? And so I felt like I had information, guidance, where I could help other people understand what to do and what not to do. And I was willing to share it freely over a cup of coffee or in the room. And I was just making deposits into people's lives, right? I felt that if I made enough deposits, good things would happen. And sure enough, they did. I mean, what I've learned is that the power is in the network of the people all around you. Everything that you want is all around you if you just give people what they want. And so my business started flourishing, right? First with investors and developers and builders. And then what happened was they would refer me to their cousin, their brother, their mother, their sister. And then I started attracting people to my team from that room. Other investors that wanted to join our investment team. In fact, Mark Beckett, who runs my construction division and investment division, started with me as just a member in that room 11 years ago, which is kind of crazy. And he's now my partner in crime in the Grid Network, and specifically a chapter leader for our Reston location. So what happened was the network grew my business. It brought stability to my business. It brought not only listings and buyers, but investment deals. It built my downline. And most importantly, I made some amazing friendships. And I have business partners because of it. So it was a blessing. But then I realized, well, I didn't realize actually, people started coming to me saying, hey, this is great. Can you set one up though in Tyson's Corner? Can you set one up in Haymarket? We really need one, in Arlington. And I was like, hey, time out. I'm one guy. I'm building my business. I don't have the ability to do that. And I actually turned down one person in particular who said, hey, I will just license your rights to how you do this to me, how you do this, show me how you do it, and I'll set one up in Tyson's. And I was like, no, I'm not interested in doing that, which I should have done, right? I love the guy, and maybe he'll become a grid leader here soon enough, right? I know that he gave up his chapter here recently, one that he started on his own. I think he's going down a different path. But then I was approached by somebody else who wanted to open one up in Haymarket. And I realized that there was a demand. There was a demand to show people our way of working with and empowering the community when it came to creating wealth, right? It was by being a go-giver. It was by giving people a business foundation so that they can build upon every other step that was required in the full life cycle of a real estate investor, so that they can build wealth and legacy in their life. And so we set up one in Haymarket, and then we set up another one in Falls Church, and then we set one up in, we have one in Tyson's, in McLean now, in Upper Marlboro, in Baltimore, in a couple places in Florida. And so what happened was we started finding that there was other investor agents like me that, wanted to build a tribe of people that wanted to build and create wealth and legacy in their life through real estate. And so that was really my first hyper-local, psychographic market, because I did it specifically in Reston, which is where I live, and I targeted real estate investors that lived in or around the Reston market, right? And it was powerful. It was the launch pad for my business. And as I continued to build out our business, I realized that there was a lot of agents on my team that didn't share the passion, didn't share that same passion of real estate investing, although I was always, and I'm constantly encouraging them to build wealth in their life through real estate. So I would say 90% of them do, and the other 10% I'm constantly, pounding them on why it's important to build wealth. But not all of them want to lead a tribe like that. And that's okay. What we found was that they could lead hyper-local geographic markets in our business. And instead of going wide, for instance, instead of saying all of Reston or even all of a zip code, it was going to the neighborhood level. It was going really, really hyper-local. And it was getting down to the place where we knew technology couldn't compete, right? It was all learning about all the little nuances of the streets and all the nuances of why people like to live in certain neighborhoods and what schools are pulling into those neighborhoods, and why were price points on this side of the street a certain dollar figure and then on that side of the street a different dollar figure. I mean, it's really getting down to the heart of specific neighborhoods. And that's what we call hyperlocal. And so we started expanding our business by having hyperlocal agents take territory in their markets, by layering different types of marketing and educational events. Because when you peel back the onion in terms of who we are educators. We believe in empowering the community with information and making them smarter, right? So whether it's real estate investing, or it's making them smarter as a seller, or making them smarter as a buyer, we want to help the community make smarter investments, right? Sell for more money and get good deals, right? And so we have a very particular strategy in order to make that happen, right? We call that our zone method of business building. And zone is really just an acronym, right? It's zero in on your target market, own the mind share of that market, network and nurture with your database, and then expand and grow. And then each one of those pillars has modules that we go deep on to help people understand how to select their target market, and then how to actually own the mind share of that market through playing the ground game, calling, door knocking, to playing the online game with very specific geo-targeting through Facebook and Instagram. And then how to use your CRM and technology to automate the incubation of leads and relationships so that you could scale your business. And then how to think beyond just being a realtor, but how to create different income streams from your, what I call your economic engine, your real estate team engine, your cash flow business, and building other businesses like construction, investments, a title, mortgage. So it's about thinking bigger. And Gary and the rest of KW International, and honestly just everybody that has ever been a mega agent that we've always learned from, people like Ben Kinney and Chris Suarez, and there's so many others that we admire, that we're blessed to be with KW, and we're blessed to be part of this family. And so anyhow, I just want to tell you a little bit about that story. On Tuesday, I'm going to be on stage with Gary Keller, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we built out these psychographic and geographic markets, and how we're expanding our business, really going deep instead of going wide, and helping agents understand how to make that happen. Another good website for you to look at is restondiggs.com, diggs.com. That'll help you understand how we're going deep in our community by really building the community. The way I look at it is it's interesting. When I first got in this business, it was just about wanting to do deals and make money. And that's empty in itself, right? Once you understand how to, create predictability and income, you realize there's got to be more. And what I discovered was, man, I got so much joy out of helping others build legacy. And I got so much joy by helping buyers and sellers understand how they could win in the transaction. And I got so much joy with just building community in the process of building our business, right? We want to pour into the community and build community and move families forward. Not only our family, like everybody in the CAZA family or in the Grid family, we want to help our families move forward, but we want to help our clients move forward, right? And it's a blessing to be in this business because we have the ability to impact lives when we do that. So we build community and we impact lives. That's what we do. Sell homes, build community, impact lives. So I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. And if you see me at the convention, come up and say hi. Take care.